Hi, boys and girls. Here we are in the midst of St. Petersburg, Florida. A lot of St. Petersburg, Florida was put together in the 1920s, and we're surrounded by really interesting 1920s architecture. And this is actually just the public restroom that my daddy Bert definitely used once or twice when he was living right here. We're right on the water. We're on this boat basin. And across the boat basin, over there, is the Vinoy Park Hotel. Right there. And Snooky Bowden, Elbert Victor Bowden, when he was 16 years old, he took a train down here to St. Petersburg. He lied about his age. And the fishermen that he knew, told him that if you go down and sign up for the Merchant Marines, you won't have to put boots on and kill people. So he lied about his age. He took a train down here, and he went into basic training, and on the third day of basic training, they put him in a boat, a little rowboat, a lifeboat. And they said, row across this boat basin. So from over there, right over here to this close shore and then back. So he rowed across this boat basin, and he sprinted and did a fancy turn and came back, because he had been rowing a boat since he was 5 years old, and he was 16, saying he was 17. So when he came back, they were really impressed right over here. And they said, where did you learn to row like that? He said, well, I've been rowing like that since I've been 5 years old. And they said, you want a job here teaching guys that are farmers how to row that never been on the water? And he said, well, okay. So they took him out of basic training. They gave him a room in the Vinoy Park Hotel. He even pointed out where the room was once to me, that he stayed in, in a bunk room with some other trainers and stuff for the basic training time. And this is the site of my daddy history. And the first time I spoke to him on the telephone in 1997, when I was 40 years old, I said to him, yeah, I'm talking to you from St. Pete Beach, Florida, next to the famous Don Cesar Hotel. I said, have you ever heard of the Don Cesar Hotel? And he said, well, no. Have you ever heard of the Vinoy Park Hotel? And I said, sure. That's the sister hotel to the Don Cesar. Those are the two big giant hotels that were built in the 1920s. And people from all over the world come to the Don Cesar Hotel. And they have weddings there and stuff. And it's interesting because my grandparents actually moved to the Don Cesar neighborhood and helped to save the Don Cesar Hotel when it was slated for destruction. They were going to tear the thing down. They already had a crew to tear down the Don Cesar Hotel. And the neighbors literally rose up and found a company that would just take the place and fix it up and turn it into a hotel. So my life is inextricably linked with these two cool 1920s hotels, the Don Cesar and the Vinoy Park. And that's the boat basin right there. Sorry about the wobbly camera work. We don't have a camera crew here. There's just me holding my laptop. And that is the boat basin right there, opening up, that he rowed across from there to there. From over there to over here. From over there to over here. And so when I talked to him the first time, he said, well, I had the most amazing sailing experience of my life. In 1943, I got to sail in the waters of St. Petersburg Bay in the Joseph Conrad, which is a square rigger sailboat with amazing sails and yard arms that's a training boat for merchant midshipmen and for people who are learning how to spend their life on the seas. So his most amazing sailing experience was right out there in that bay. And then I said to him, well, that's pretty strange, because 40 years later, in 1983, I had my most amazing sailing experience of my whole life. I was racing thistles on Long Island Sound out of Westport, Connecticut. I was living in New York City, 108th and Amsterdam, and I would jump on a New Haven line and scoot up to Connecticut, and my aunt and uncle would pick me up, and we would jump on their Thistle racing sailboat with a fleet of 52 other boats, and a lot of the skippers on those boats were national champions. So if you came in fifth or something like that in one of those races, you probably had beaten a national champion skipper. So it was a real challenging yacht club to be racing in. So back in 1983, some of these hotshot guys, that just love sailing as part of their life, they're like, hey man, we need crew for St. Petersburg. Can you take 4 days off and drive down to St. Petersburg with us with a couple of boats and go racing? And I was like, okay, yeah. So I jumped in this van that had a stack of Thistle sailboats on the back side of it. We drove all the way down from New York City area to St. Petersburg, and I raced on that bay with 200 of the same sailboat, and we came in 20th. And coming in 20th out of 200 is pretty hot, because we definitely left some national champions in our wake. So my first conversation with Daddy Bert was about how that water was the most amazing sailing experience, because he had to go way up on the rat lines, way up on the yard arms, pulling in volumes of canvas and, letting sails out and all kinds of crazy stuff at 16, 17 years old. So the story moves on from there, but the most important thing is, the only reason why I met that guy that rode this boat basin is because one elder guy said to me, so, have you ever spoken blessings over that guy that got your mommy pregnant? Because my mommy, God bless her, I was the product of basically college sex. My mommy did not know who the daddy was. She was pregnant with me, and she was a hotshot nurse at Duke College of Nursing, and she really knew her stuff. Oh, Father. That's me. It looks like we might be getting a ticket.